Civil commitment and the insanity defense form the foundation of psychiatric slavery. And psychiatric slavery is when people earn money from psychiatric coercion, force, and confinement. Psychiatrist Thomas Szasz first introduced me to the idea and concept of psychiatric slavery. He first implanted the idea in my mind that civil commitment and the insanity defense should be outlawed. I've always seemed to think that suicide should be respected as a civil and human right. That seems like common sense to me. I myself am not going to hurt myself or anybody else, but it doesn't mean people who want to shouldn't be allowed to hurt their own selves. Of course, hurting others is only legal in cases of authentic self-defense, and that should remain that way. But suicide should be respected as a civil and human right for adults. And this does not mean that suicide is good or desirable. This just means that we should not use psychiatric coercion, force, and confinement on adults that either have attempted suicide or say they are going to. We should use persuasion, reason, and kindness to reduce suicides. Psychiatric slavery should be outlawed. And also let me say that I think it will be good if we can reduce suicides to zero. That is a worthwhile goal. If we can make living on Earth so awesome that nobody wants to leave Earth via their own hands, well, that's great. We should aim for that. But we should not use psychiatric force, coercion, and confinement to get there. Civil commitment should be outlawed. We should use persuasion, reason, and kindness to entice adults to want to live on Earth. If you haven't read any of psychiatrist Thomas Szasz's books, I'd recommend you do. Some of his books include Suicide, Prohibition, The Shame of Medicine, Fatal Freedom, The Ethics and Politics of Suicide, Insanity, The Idea and Its Consequences. In that book, Insanity talks about the insanity defense and why it should be outlawed and all the implications of the idea of insanity. He wrote a book called Psychiatric Slavery, which analyzes a Supreme Court decision, the Donaldson case. I'd recommend you read that. All his books are pretty good. But again, the whole point of this is that civil commitment and the insanity defense form the foundation of psychiatric slavery. And as far as the insanity defense goes, it should be banned. The insanity defense should not be legal to use. And this is because insanity is subjective and it can be faked. There is no objective way to prove insanity. It's impossible. There is no medically objective way. There is no scientifically objective way. It's all based on interviews and self-report. It can be faked, and it's a subjective thing. You know, if a white Caucasian Christian believes God wants him to hurt others and then hurts others and says, God wanted me to do it, we will often, say, oh, that's an insane person. But if a, person from the Middle East with a different religion says God wants them to hurt other people, we label them as a terrorist. And this is a great example of how insanity is subjective, and a good reason why the insanity defense should be outlawed. People should be responsible for their actions. And, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Psychiatrist Thomas Szasz, like I said, has wrote about 35 books, and he elaborates in depth about why psychiatric slavery should be outlawed, about why the insanity defense should be outlawed, why civil commitment should be outlawed, why suicide should be respected as a civil and human right for adults. He's written copious amounts. I encourage you to read what he's written. So, again, my whole message here is just to try and educate people that civil commitment and the insanity defense form the foundation of psychiatric slavery. And again, psychiatric slavery is when people earn money from psychiatric coercion, force, and confinement. Another reason why suicide should be respected as a civil and human right for adults is so that people can have open and honest conversations about it, so we can more readily use persuasion and reason and kindness to persuade people to live on Earth. There's plenty of reasons. And again, his books that I'd recommend regarding this are, again, Fatal Freedom, The Ethics and Politics of Suicide, Suicide, Prohibition, The Shame of Medicine, Insanity, The Idea and Its Consequences, and Psychiatric Slavery. So I'm going to end it there. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow me, watch my streams, videos, and have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, or night, whenever and wherever you may be. Cheers.